They even give you the time of day. It was 2 o'clock for Sunday morning or some crazy time. And what they don't seem to realize is, how could that be true? You haven't had a judgment day yet. It's a slight bit of a biblical problem there. They didn't go through the great white throne judgment. How could they know that they're saved? Then you have problems in the Bible that are just flat out false statements. I'll give you some examples. Ecclesiastes 1:9 says, "What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun." That is blatantly false. How many cities had an atomic bomb dropped on them before 1945? How many satellites went into space prior to 1957? How many people walked on the moon before 1969 or flew across the Atlantic before 1927? The statement is patently erroneous. Psalm 145:16 says, "Thou," it's talking about God, "openest thine hand and satisfiest the desire of every living thing." God satisfies the desire of every living thing. We're all living. Have you had all your desires satisfied? 1 Timothy 4:8 says, "Bodily exercise profiteth little." Exercise? They've lost their minds. That's directly contradictory to what every doctor recommends you do, that you exercise. Proverbs 10:3, "The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry." Hardly. Another one I sometimes use, it says, Proverbs 10:27, it says, "The fear of the Lord prolongs life, but the years of the wicked are short." I know some wicked people seem to live forever. You probably, you probably do too. You're probably wondering, how did I get into this? Let me give you the Cliff Notes version of my expose or arrival into this enterprise in which I'm engaged. About 30 years ago, I was teaching high school, and a student came up to me. He was a fundamentalist, and he had one of these. It had the Good News for Modern Man, which is a current version in English of the Bible. I don't know if you've ever read the Bible much, but if you get through all those begots, you can navigate anything. The book is horribly, it's just terrible to read. King James is a nightmare. It's all that Shakespearean English. So at any rate, I started reading this book, and I liked it. I read the whole thing and found a lot of problems within it, but I didn't get into the Bible really heavily then. Then about 10 years later, I decided, I don't know, for some reason, I decided that, I think it was because I saw so many religious people speaking on radio and television, I thought, boy, somebody needs to counteract these people, especially from what I read earlier. So I decided what I was going to do is I'll just read the entire Bible, cover to cover. So I sat down and I bought, before I started reading, I bought what's called the Layman's Parallel Bible. It's 4 versions. You got the King James Revised Standard and the Good News, and then you go over the Living Bible. And I'd read the King James. If I couldn't understand it, then I'd go and read the Revised Standard version. And that's a more up-to-date modern version. If I couldn't understand that, I'd go read the modern language. If I couldn't understand that, then I go to what is nothing more than a paraphrase, which is called the Living Bible. So I read this book, and it took me about a year to read it from cover to cover, and I had my red pen out, and I was marking all over the thing, something fierce, and I turned the book from black to red, and I had more footnotes than you can imagine. And I assembled, not only that, I read a lot outside the Bible. In fact, I gathered so much data, I had 5 large binders. I'm talking, these are 4-inch ones, full of information. I thought, what am I going to do with all this? So I said, what I'll do is I'll go on the radio. So I started calling up various radio stations. And lo and behold, some of them took me up on it. They said, come on over. So I started going on radio stations in 1978. And that went along pretty well. And then in about 1982, I decided, I think I'll expand even further. I'm going to put out a publication. And so I did. I started what's called Biblical Errancy. I published that from 1982 to 99, about 16 years. And people would write to me, and I'd write to them, and we'd have quite a dialogue on the problems and errors and contradictions of the Bible. One of my subscribers was Paul Kurtz, who's the publisher of Prometheus Books. He wrote to me and said, why don't you write a book? I thought, oh, all right, I'll write a book. So I wrote a book, and he published it. This one here, the Encyclopedia of biblical errancy. It's just a primer. It just basically breaks people in on what's wrong with the Bible. It's not the heavy type theological work of some sort. It's just a fundamental type of introduction. Then I decided that, well, I need, about 5 years later, I thought, what I need is a book for debating. If I meet a fundamentalist, I need a quick reference source where I can grab a verse right then and there that I need to counteract something they're saying. So I called up Kurtz, and I said, well, I'd like to publish another book. So we, instead of this 550-page, we put out this 850-page reference guide. And this is just an alphabetically arranged synopsis of virtually every problem I can think of in the Bible. Certainly a load of them, that's for sure. And that one is, I use that constantly on the internet when I debate with people. Also put out some pamphlets. And I put out, I had about 4 men that helped me on every Saturday morning. We went down for about 4 years, a little over 4 years, and we made some videotapes. They're all half an hour long. And essentially what I did was I put the first book on TV. So if you watch all 100 programs, you don't even need to read the book. And that was an interesting enterprise. And at the end here, I hope to be able to play an excerpt from that. Now every Sunday night I have my own radio show, which is good. Just further expansion of what I'm trying to become involved in. When you're critiquing the Bible, I find one thing to do is keep the problem simple. I find that some people critique the Bible, they get into these big, long, involved explanations of things that they see wrong in the book, and by the time at the end of the explanation, the fundamentalist has lost what